The difference between author intent and reader interpretation has been the very base of literary interpretation and analysis even before literary analysis really existed in the shape and form which we know today. And yet, one of the oddest examples of this disparity is a brand new debut novella, which is part of a high fantasy series, which somehow manages to show an incredible talent for creating worlds and planning worlds, and yet just as incredible failure to build character. Hello everyone, my name is December, and this is my attic. But let's begin from the start, I guess. The House of the Raven is a 2022 debut novella, which is written by Valentina Yordanova as a prequel for the upcoming high fantasy series called The Song of the Black Phoenix. On one hand, as a debut work, one cannot be too harsh. After all, this is the author's first real work and there for the readers to see and base their opinions on. It's not like presenting it to beta readers or even editors, though. This is the real test, and those are the real people with their real opinions. It is completely normal for a creator to still be looking for their way while publishing, looking for their style, looking for their way of expression, looking for their structure. And yet, this piece actually went through formal editing and through all of the formal stages before being published. And it has been published. It was deemed by multiple people to be good enough, or the best it could be, to be put out there for the public. It went through revisions, it went through editing, it is out there. It's no longer an idea that the author toys with in the middle of the day. This is meant to set the pace for a full-fledged book series in the high fantasy genre, and supposedly in the romance subgenre. I say supposedly just because, as you're going to see, this is not a romance story. If we think about romance as the concept of experiencing romantic feelings or love, there is no romance in this story. But that's rushing a bit, so let's go back. Well, when she was writing this book, the author made an attempt. And it is just sad that obviously she did a lot of things right, and yet the most important parts of the story, if this can even be called a story, failed so miserably because there is so much effort and obviously love put into it that it is just bad that it's this strange. The actual story unravels from the very beginning. While the word that's set up sets this incredible base for the future series, this specific story just doesn't work. And I'm just going to do a slightly more different structure when it comes to this review, and I'm just going to go over it why. So, usually we go through the plot, and then we start with the most important characters, and we kind of mix them together just so it's understandable and it's readable. This time we're going to go through the technical parts first, just mostly because this is what I really liked, and I would love to talk more about the parts which I really liked. Then we're going to go over the general plot of the story. Then we're going to go over the side characters, and then the love interest in purely the most technical sense. And then for last, we have the main character. And you might ask, but why would you leave the main character for last? What sense does it make? And here's why. This is not a plot-driven story. This is barely a character-driven story, because this is barely a story. This is just the main character going forward and chasing her goals, which is good, which is normal. But if I start with her, I would basically have to tell the entire story from her point of view and then talk about the side characters, as she meets them. And this is going to get so rambly. So just so rambly. If anyone has ever seen any of my streams, you know what I mean. Well, if I do it like this, I'm going to go over all the important parts and I can talk about them by themselves. I can say what I like, what I dislike, and then I can just tie it all together with the main character and what happens, why and when and all that jazz. So let's go all the way back to the beginning. Let's start with the technical part. Well, pacing wise, the story is extremely rushed. It isn't clear if the author was trying her hardest to keep the length under the usual 50,000 words. As this is a novella, it actually tops 40,000 words and is 90 pages in the PDF file, which the author distributed. So I'm not sure if this was done, if the pacing was done, to be able to label the piece as a novella and maybe make it more normal to give away for free for people to read as an introduction to her style and also to the world, or if this is just her style. I do hope is the former, but whether this is the reason or not, the pacing is insane. It's so fast. The only real world building we get comes from a few info dumps here and there, just not even exposition. It's just information about the world, which, by the way, so the pacing isn't good, but the way the author tried to do this world building shows a really good idea. Really good idea. It's done in a, kind of an interesting way. It is a bit on the nose because it's a bit too literal, and I'm going to mention a bit later what is so literal. But she has a really decent idea how to tangle the world building into the story, because this is a third person limited point of view, which means that most of the time we are in the head of the main character. So the author actually manages to fit quite a lot of world building in a really well done limited point of view. And it is a bit clumsy, which I would say comes from this being the first work, but the idea is really good, and she obviously was doing her best to not have those really long info dumps or just have pages upon pages of explaining lore or anything like this. So the idea is there. It's not even that horribly done. It shows imagination. It shows that she wanted to do it right. She wanted to do it well. It is just a bit clumsily done. But this is about the lore, the way the information is conveyed. But because the pacing is so sped up, we get a few pieces of world building and that's it. Everything else is just action, just pure action. There is no time for the story to stop and breathe. There is no real introduction of characters. There's no time for the story to rest and for things to just unfold. Nothing unfolds. Everything is ripped apart like a Christmas present. It's so fast. Now, the world building which I mentioned is, again, the idea is good. It's just not all that perfectly well executed. But I think it shows that she can do really well, the author. She can do a lot. She just needs a bit of polishing when it comes to the technique and her writing style. But there's good ideas. When it comes to this, the characters are a completely different issue. But what do I mean about world building? Now, there's a part of the book, quite early, mind you, where the main character is presented with basically a character is being quizzed on their knowledge about strategy and also their tactical skills, whether they would be a good general. I would say a different word, but I'm pretty sure I can't pronounce it right now. So, a character is being quizzed on their strategic skills and their understanding of history and the world around them, because they're supposed to be a future leader of an army. And the way this is done is they are given 3 situations, if I can say it like this. And they're asked, how would you resolve this? How would you win this battle if you are against this country and they have this, this, and this? Or if your village is attacked by werewolves in this specific situation, what are you going to do? So they're presented with three of those situations and they're asked to resolve them. And in this specific case, a character, the main character, resolved those by explaining how she would do things, and she's basing this on her knowledge of history, her knowledge of strategy, and also her knowledge of all those different countries and those different species that are mentioned in the hypothetical situations. Now, this is a very, very good way to do world building because you are tangling it, you are mixing it with the actual conversation because this is quite a hypothetical but also quite realistic situation. Someone is being quizzed on their knowledge, on their skill, and obviously they would be given this type of situations. The issue is that those paragraphs are over 100 words long. They are reading as if you're literally reading a history textbook. The eye just slides down all the way through this, just catching details here and there, especially in the given situations. The character's answers are a bit clearer, so she speaks a bit in a bit more understandable way, sorry, and she has a bit more, her speech patterns flow a bit better. While the questions themselves that are presented to her are literally written like a history textbook. It is a really good idea. It's just, it could have been broken down a little bit or something. It's just not perfectly well done. Also, those three situations are going to come back a bit later. So this serves both as a world building tool, but also as a way for basically for the author to link the theoretical knowledge of the main character with something she would need in practice in the future. Again, it is a good idea, but because those three situations they basically happen, literally the same ones happen in the future, and she resolves them in the way she is forced to prove in practice what she learned in theory. It is a bit on the nose how literal they are. But it is a good idea. It is a good idea. It is decently, semi-decently well executed. It could be better, but it is a really, really good start. So, yeah, because of this text, this is a stylistic choice, okay? Um, Usually something like this would be caught in editing, just blocks of text, which is just historical text. I'm not sure what happened in this case, but yeah. Talking about the world building, again, a bit clumsy, but it is there and it has some really, really good ideas. But the world that was built is amazing. I'm going to give this to the author, and this actually reminds me to another book which I've read, which I might actually talk about at some point, which basically has this incredible writing style and this incredible world building, and then you see the character and it's like, sir, in this case actually, ma'am, you made something incredible and you just like forced us into the head of whatever this is. Anyway, the world itself. The world is called, in this case, because again, high fantasy, the world of Erea is amazing. On the other page, currently there is even a map of the continent and lands, and also basically on the surface level, the protagonist has good reasons to explore it and to give the readers a front view of all the details. So the protagonist talks about the world in theory and then explores it in practice. And it is really, again, it is well done. It's not just a character being thrown there for reasons. The idea is good. I'm not sure what happened with the characters. But let's talk a bit more about the world of Erea. The world of Erea is described as both vast and rich, inhabited by all types of magic users, all having their different methods and skills. there's different types of magic beasts, ghosts, demons, and shapeshifters. The events give the readers a glimpse of one of the religions, of the differences between witchers, sorcerers, and warlocks, of the advantages and disadvantages of wind dragons in battle. So we have dragons, we have mermaids, we have witches, we have sorcerers, we have summoning demons, we have different religions. It is really thought out. You can tell there was a lot of thought put into the different zones. Also, something very, very interesting is that the different countries, I guess you could say, or the different cities, all have their different flora and fauna, their different climate, and they're inhabited in different types of magical beasts, which would be fit for the climate. It is good. It is good. That's what I'm going to say. It is good. It is thought out, but because, first of all, because the pacing is so rushed, we don't really get to see that much of it. And also because we are forced in the head of the main character. But the world, really good, really thought out, really well put together, beautiful. And when isolated, this world would be a delight to explore and develop, ripe with opportunities and potential. So, as I mentioned, each land has a specific climate with appropriate magic based and practices, uh, different weather, different topography. It's obvious that a lot more effort went into planning it than just wouldn't it be cool if we had this. And unfortunately, while careful, planning and plotting appears to be the author's preferred method of writing, as a whole, the results very much vary. Ideas are good. Some of them are good only in theory. So, while the flora and fauna of the universe are while the flora and fauna of this world are diverse, thought out and colorful, the same absolutely cannot be said about the society. And it is one society, even if it's spread over an incredible vast amount of land, with seas and oceans and mountains in between. Okay. There is only one relevant fact about the human side of the world. It is a man's world. Everything the protagonist does is to win her end goal of proving she is not like the other girls and that she can beat all the men in what she's trying to do. The society in Araya hates women, and unfortunately there is nothing a story published in 2022 can do to make the concept interesting. So just by itself, a misogynistic society is just okay. It's not even the base of it. It's less than the base. Nowadays it means nothing for a story. What you do with this fact is what makes you good. It's what makes you interesting, what makes you readable. So let's see how Eria handles misogyny and what exactly it means for it and whether it's real. A woman proving she is more than a housewife and a mother will always be relevant. So whether it's in 2022 or 10, 20, 15 years ago, 10, 20, 50 years in the future, there's always going to be a real life example for this. But the idea has been done so many times, all of them better written, that it ends up being boring. The strong female protagonist destroying the patriarchy might be interesting, but only when done by someone who knows how to use it. Simply playing it straight and to this story's level of extreme, it's simply not well enough written to work. It is bare bones, the concept stripped from nuance, reason, or subtlety, and with the rushed everything, it really looks like a first draft. So how does misogyny show up in this specific book? So women are to be pretty, but nothing more. They are not to read much, study, or even attempt to get in the most prestigious academy, prestigious school, prestigious building of education in the world. And what do I mean by not even attempt? I mean they're not allowed to sit the entrance exam. Plus, even when a woman proves herself to be smart enough to take the academy world by storm, aka get perfect score on the entrance exam, she still needs to be a femme fatale and more beautiful than all of them put together, enticing and enslaving the male gaze. Otherwise, she is still useless. Because if she just knows as much as all the men, this still means she is still much, much below them. She needs to render them stupid, mute, and speechless just when they see her, just so they would be willing to listen to her, no matter what. Based on what one based on the words of one of the most canonically smart and influential men in the story, even if a woman is educated and intelligent, this means nothing if she's not beautiful enough. And then he tells his granddaughter that while she has the very real potential of becoming the director of the school that won't let women sit an entrance exam, that she even has the potential of becoming the advisor of the emperor, she still needs a makeover. And when I say makeover, I really mean that him saying this is basically played like a teen movie where they do a makeover to the nerd girl, remove her glasses, and put her in a dress. She is lucky, he says, that she's quite pretty to begin with. Obviously, nothing to write poems about, but she'll do. Or it would have been a bit difficult for him. Let's go back to a few minutes ago. What does misogyny in this world look like, aside from straight up saying, again, the author says women are not allowed to do anything. Women are not allowed to study. Women are not allowed to be powerful. They do have power, magical power, but all of the individuals in power are men. And yet, the Witcher, and no, not that Witcher. I wish it was that Witcher. That would have been fun. And yet, the Witcher who tells his granddaughter that she needs to be prettier, he says that if she studies hard enough, she can be the emperor's advisor. She can be the head of the institution that hates women. So here we have a bit of a difference in, the show part and the tell part, because we are told it is impossible. It's not done. But like, if she was to sit the entrance exam due to her knowledge and the power of the man who is sponsoring her, her grandfather, she would still be the first woman to set foot in the academy. And yet her grandfather thinks it's fully possible for her to go to the highest post. And that's just not how this works. That's just not. She cannot be the first and the only one and then go through the ranks like this. Because the whole society would need to change for a woman to reach that high of a position, and she cannot do it alone. Just because she is smart and pretty, that doesn't mean the entire system is going to bend backwards for her. And that's what the author is saying. The author is also saying that, women they basically don't get the choice, no power, no nothing. And yet the story is showing something completely different. Now, so let's go back to the show and tell. What we're told is that the world hates women so much that they need to be the most perfect of the perfect just to be allowed to speak. The protagonist needs the makeover, the powerful and successful man says, because even if she achieves what no other woman has ever had, gets in the academy, graduates with a perfect score, and becomes a director, the emperor still wouldn't want her as an advisor unless she is decorative. And yet, that's not what the story shows. That's what the story tells. So let's go to a side character, which I'm going to go into a bit more detail about her personality when I'm talking about the character. But the character's literally only friend is her. I would say she's no, she's not a handmaiden. She's her maid, her lady's maid. And we also see that she is also a whipping girl, because for whatever reason, even though they're not royalty, the main character is not royalty. for some reason, the tutor they have that teaches her brother wouldn't touch her, but she would absolutely beat up her maid. So she, just a random merchant's daughter, has a whipping girl. I'm still not sure why, but okay. So she's the daughter of the cook in the castle mansion in the house. She's the daughter of the cook. She's the whipping girl. She is the maid the of the eldest daughter. Who again, the eldest daughter, no power at all. All they want for her is a good marriage so she can give strong connections to her merchant father and her future merchant brother, younger brother. So, and yet her servant has a very real potential of, at the beginning, of marrying her brother. Her brother, the heir of the house, is willing to marry a servant's daughter. We also know that the maid, the servant, the whipping girl, whatever you want to call it, she has quite a lot of power, magical power, which remains unrecognized, I guess, because she is still just a maid, a lady's maid. And later, in the end of the book, we learn that so she has the possibility of being engaged to the lord, to the future lord of the house, the heir. She rejects him, okay, and then she marries the previous supposed heir of an incredibly powerful house of wizards, of black wizards, and she basically becomes a sister-in-law to the main character. So she marries a man who used to be the heir of a huge wizard house and is now the second son of said wizard house. Incredibly powerful man. A man so powerful that people would, in his end of the continent, would consider them almost royalty. The servant girl marries him after rejecting another lord. So it could be just an amazing luck that she found two men who don't care about status and whose families don't care about status, because while we know that the main character's father might have issues with his son marrying a servant, the dark wizard, so the love interest is a dark wizard and his family is also dark wizards. So the current dark wizard lord obviously couldn't put enough resistance and didn't teach his son to be misogynistic enough, because his son actually marries a servant girl. And it doesn't seem to be some type of almost master-slave relationship. No, they seem to actually have a connection. So, also we learn that some religions have priestesses that have been blessed by different gods and different goddesses, and one of the neighbors of the family of the main character claims to be blessed by this goddess. So when it is proven that she was blessed by said goddess and that they really are descendants of an incredibly powerful priestess, this girl, this woman, gets her pick of a husband, whoever she wants. Literally. She is proven to have certain type of power, so she is allowed to pick a husband. Even someone middle to high in the elite society, she gets her pick from them. This is not a system that's designed to destroy women at any point. Their ambitions, their emotions. No. This is just a normal system that just doesn't like people. Is there misogyny? Yes. Are there examples here which, are a bit on the nose, but there is an attempt? Yes. But the story tells us one thing and it shows us another. This is not a story where women are broken, beaten, powerless, treated like livestock. No. The story says they are, but the story shows us they aren't. And again, this might be because of, um, because it is a first story, a first book of the author. But it the moment you think about it a little bit, the difference just pops up. But yeah, women can be powerful, women can be respected. The protagonist is just too much of a pick-me girl, and the author just wanted her to be alone against the world. Literally, the only person who faces such sexism and misogyny is the main character. Everyone else just like goes on with their lives. And it's not so. I did say it's not all women, but it's also not all men. Again, because you know, father, grandfather, fiance, her in-laws, they're all this sexist against her, but everyone else is just allowed to just do their own thing. The entire story is based on values that don't seem to exist in the way the author wants us to believe. But, okay, so this is the world. Really, really good world. Kind of wonky world building technique which can be improved. And then just trying to make the story fit the character. And failing. So, but what is the story? I keep saying the story says this, the story does this, but what is the story? What is the plot of House of the Raven? Which, again, novella, 40,000 words, prequel to a high fantasy book series. So what's the story? It is, if I have to summarize it, it is a, woman destroying the patriarchy, becoming her own person, and finding her own power and happiness, and flying up like a phoenix, basically raising up herself from someone to be traded like cattle in an arranged marriage into someone who takes fate in her own hands and does the things she wants and achieves what she wants. This is technically the plot. Technically. It would be even better if the main character who does all of those things was someone the readers could actually root for. So, the story follows Nira Astadel as she shows everyone her skills, her knowledge, her talents, and finds her place in the world. So, the story starts with Nira being a lord's eldest daughter, who supposedly, due to her gender, is destined for a life as a housewife and a mother. As she is introduced, she's in her mid to late teens, and she is practicing embroidery, which is one of the very few hobbies allowed for a lady. The readers also learn that, as every other, not like other girls, she has actually secretly been doing her brother's tactical and history homeworks for years, for fun, because she just likes studying so much. She actually likes studying so much, and she is also not allowed to study so much that she has to sneak in the library at night, the library of the mansion that is, and steal books and read them in her bed, and then find a way to put them back the other night, because if they catch her, oh no, she's reading, burn the witch. She is actually a witch, by the way, but this world doesn't have anything against witches. Everyone has some type of magic. So, burn the educated woman. How dare she read? Something like that. So, she is, again, so not like the other girls that she has to hide that she reads or they would scold her, because she can read. In the prologue, her grandfather, or their grandfather, the aforementioned powerful and respected man, the Witcher, who is, as one might say, judge, jury, and executioner, or what we have a different expression where I'm from, he slaughters, he hangs. He would be, he is the top dog in every circle or situation. He is that high in the elite society. And he has traveled through seas and lands and oceans to come and see his grandson, the second child, the younger brother. Because the young heir's homeworks have been so flawless, so impressive, so strong, that his tutor wrote to him to tell him that at least one of the family members is a genius, which basically shows a nice long line of daddy issues because the son of the Witcher became merchant, and the merchant doesn't like it. So now the son has daddy issues, and then the grandson has daddy issues because he doesn't want to be a merchant, but he also doesn't want to, you know, be a great, powerful, educated man. And it's a whole lot of inherited mental issues. But unfortunately, as mentioned before, Victor Astarel, the brother, is not the one doing the homework. And when his grandfather quizzes him on things from the homework, he completely clams up, both from fear, because this is the first time either of them is seeing this powerful man they have only heard horror stories about, and also because he simply doesn't know the answers. And then, in a fit of desperation to escape her situation, Nida admits she has been doing her brother's homeworks. Of course, she gets mocked and ridiculed by her grandfather and also by his assistant and also by the tutor. It's basically supposed to be a very horrible situation, but it's just, okay, why is this here? And then she proves she knew all the answers of the extremely unlikely and specific hypothetical questions, aka the world building. The Witcher declares he can make her the director of the academy and the emperor's advisor. Again, things that no woman could even dream of becoming, because the highest thing a woman can dream of is actually being accepted in the academy. And her grandfather is like, yeah, I know, I'll make you, if you're smart and study, I'll make you the director. I'll make you the emperor's right hand, anything. Again, the academy that no woman can sit the entrance exam to. That's what she's going to be leading. I mean, of course, she would need a makeover first, because obviously, like, she is a pretty teenage girl, but she is not the most beautiful and sexually desirable in the empire, and this is a problem. Obviously, this is a fact that needs amending, because the only way she's going to get her voice heard is if everyone else is, like, if their mouths are open, drooling over her chest or something. So, chapter 1, 4 years later. And from then on, we rush to the end even more than Nero rushes to get in the bed of her husband. Anyway, the real plot starts with Nida having another portrait painted on the day she gets her exam results from the academy. Getting a marriage proposal from a man she's never met, which apparently happens often enough that she's just, normal and okay with it. Having a lavish banquet in her honor because of her results, almost getting a marriage proposal from the man she actually is trying to marry, getting the banquet ruined by werewolves, multiple packs of werewolves, almost getting her sister killed, declaring she's a horrible person, getting disfigured, and accepting a different marriage proposal because her original fiance married someone else. All of this happens in one day. Less than a day. So, again, in one day, we start with her getting her portrait painted because someone ordered it, getting a marriage proposal by a proxy of the person who ordered the portrait, rejecting it, going to a banquet in her honor, her fiance, almost fiance, getting on one knee, her castle being attacked by multiple packs of rabid werewolves, a huge battle happening, several people showing impressive feats of magic, her rushing to save a sister she doesn't like, her waking up with her face disfigured. Also, here, okay, I'm going to do it here. I'm going to put it here, just a little pause. I want to show you the disfigurement that ruins everything, like her life, her everything. I'm just going to put the cover. No, I want you to look at the cover beside me and look at her face. This is what ruined her life. She's so ugly, no one can look at her right now. It's disgusting. I'm sorry it's on the screen the entire time of this video and that you have to look at it. If you need to take a pause and like go throw up in the bathroom or something, I apologize. Maybe like I thought about maybe putting some like pixels, but then it would look too much like hentai, and we don't want this here. We can do this on Twitch. But yeah, I'm sorry you have to look at this nightmare. I know it's disgusting. Yeah, I just do it for shock value, you know, that's how I get the likes. I just put horribly disfigured pictures on my screen and I make you look at them. So, she wakes up. Her almost fiance is married to someone else, to her arch rival, actually. Like, they are married, the ceremony happened. And she accepts the proposal she rejected the day before and is sent off on the ship to travel across the sea to the Dark Wizards where she is to be married. Less than 24 hours. All of this happens. It's insane. Yeah. You know, when I mentioned the pacing being rushed, you might have thought I was joking. I'm not. I really am not. So, with her ruined face and her grandfather no longer supporting her, she has no choice but to accept the Dark Wizard's marriage proposal, as she is literally out of options. Like, no one wants her because of the thing you can see, her horrible disfiguring scars. And the reason why the old witcher no longer supports her, it's not just her scar, but also because she didn't act completely based on logic and strategy. She chose to dive in to save her sister from the werewolves, and he cannot support someone who shows such extreme lapses of judgment. Like, she saved the entire village of a situation that was not meant to be possible, and she did it with resources which were not nearly enough, and yet she did it. Physically, literally, practically, she did it. And, that's what happens. Also, I just need you to take a pin of this situation, how she uses her extremely strategic brain to do this, because we're going to go to a different situation a bit later. And I want you to tell me if you think that the person who came up with such an elaborate, but also such quick plan, because she thinks in the middle of battle, this is the same person who came up with the other plan, which I'm going to mention. Like, it's a bit, girl, did you hit your head? What happened to your brain? Where did it go? Because talk about stupid. Anyway, so Nira gets on a ship on the very next day to cross what is basically an ocean to meet her fiance, the new one. Over there, she discovers she is meant to marry the heir, true, but the heir isn't the firstborn son, because the firstborn son of the Dark Wizard Lord is cursed, disabled, and based on this, the current Lord has trained his second son as heir. Makes sense, because, if the first one can't lead, the second one has to. Nida disagrees with this, and after a rushed but tense discussion, and a huge emphasis on the size of her dowry, literally she brings a bigger dowry than a princess, because her father wants to be sure that the person would actually marry her with her ugly face. But after this argument, the Dark Wizard Lord, actually agrees, and she marries the firstborn son, not the second. From then, there is a short montage of them trying to settle in some resemblance of married life. Nida uses all her skills and education to run their new castle and household, while her new husband learns how to actually be a person. And then he actually has to learn how to be the leader of a land, although she makes sure he doesn't learn too much, because she doesn't actually want him to lead the land. She just wants him to act like a human being in front of people. And then, very, very fast, again, just a few days later, a random pointless, okay, so it's not a random pointless argument. It is a very, very serious argument they get into. But he somehow forgets his disability. So his disability is actually that he is blind. He was born blind. He has never had sight in his entire life. This is part of the curse. The firstborn has extremely unstable powers and is born blind. This is the curse of the entire line, of this specific Dark Wizard line. So he's cursed to be blind. He has been blind his entire life. Make note of this. It's not like he got blind last week or a year ago and he has this phantom reflexes of being able to see. No, he is blind. He is also in a castle which he has never been to before. So they're given a residence by his father as a wedding gift, and they go to live there. He doesn't know this place. He cannot see it, and he can barely use his powers. And yet, his solution to an argument which I'm going to go into a bit later, what exactly the argument is and how both of them react to it. But he thinks she ran outside she was offended by his words, and he thinks she ran outside to be a dramatic woman or something. Outside there's a thunderstorm, and also for some reason Nida's alicorn is out there, like her noble steed. So this man who is completely blind and in environment he doesn't know just runs outside calling her name. He doesn't know where he's going. He doesn't know where she is, and he doesn't know how to get there. And then the alicorn attacks him for no reason and just like stabs him in between the ribs with its like the horn, like whoop. So that happens, and this is when Nira suddenly goes, "Oh wait, I need to break the curse because my husband can actually die because he is blind and he cannot control his powers and he is dangerous to, not because he wants to destroy people, I mean he wants to, but also because he's just danger to himself and society out of just not being able to control his incredibly destructive powers." So that's when she thinks maybe it would be best if he could control his powers and wasn't blind. Our main character, everyone. The solution to this extremely complicated problem of whether to remove the horrible curse or not, I know, so difficult, such difficult decisions, honestly. So the solution is to find a book on curses. That's it. There is a book which Nida knows exactly where it is. It belongs to the directors of one of the Dark Wizard schools. And this book is not even all that well protected. And in it, it is written all about who cast the curse, why did they cast it, how to remove it. This line of Dark Wizards has been cursed for centuries. They have a whole graveyard that's just babies, the firstborn sons, who were basically born disabled, and their powers are so unstable they can actually kill people without meaning to. And also their mothers, and yet not a single person thought about reading a book on curses, on how to resolve it. Nobody thought about asking the evil dark wizard who leads the evil dark wizard school about this book. No one thought about doing a horrible trade with them, trade their land, trade their soul, trade, I don't know if they're this misogynistic, just like give them your daughters, make them a harem, anything. This curse is killing your entire line, and yet nobody thought about actually reading how to break it. Anyway, so Nida's solution is she knows about this book, okay? And she also knows where it is. The question is, how do you get a book from the office of one of the directors of one of the evil magic schools? Black magic, demons, necromancy. Ooh, spooky. This leads to an extremely pointlessly complicated and elaborate plan that include her running away in the middle of the night, almost dying several times, trying to seduce some random people, and almost getting sexually assaulted by a humanoid Komodo dragon. Like, if Ren, the love interest, doesn't show up when he does, like a total deus ex machina, she would have been violated in every possible way by a demon which looks like a crocodile but stands on two legs. Like, she was about to get it done. Like, her clothes were off and she was about to be thrown in the circle. And here's the thing. Okay, so let's okay. The reason she goes to this school is to get the book, to read the book. Actually, she doesn't get it, but she gets the information which is in the book. For her to get in the school, like to get through the door, she needs a good excuse. So her excuse is she needs to perform a ritual, and the only people who can help her with this are the dark wizards in this specific school. The ritual which she says she wants to perform with her own mouth. She speaks this, she says it, okay? She says she wants to perform a ritual which involves her having sex with a demon, because this would give her a specific type of power. Okay? Do a ritual, during the ritual, in the middle of the magic array, have sex with a demon, you get magic powers. The demons in this world, again, look like lizards. Big lizards on 2 feet, very powerful, very strong magic, again, but they're not like humans with horns and tails and claws, which, you know, some people might be into that. Not king shaming. But in this specific world, demons look like Komodo dragons, look like lizards, crocodiles, whatever you want to call it. They are animals. She gets in this building by declaring she wants to do it. Okay, she specifically sought this school, and for her to do it, actually, she sought a different school for that director to give her a letter of recommendation based on who she is married to, so she could get into the school she actually wants to get in, as in get through the door. She's not applying to be there, because they have the necessary equipment to summon a demon that she can have sex with. She was not kidnapped from the street and forced to do this, okay? She walked on her own 2 feet and with her own mouth said, I want to have sex with this demon, okay? And yet, somehow, the people who arranged it are the bad guys. Like, okay, don't get me wrong, they're not good guys, okay? People die in this school because they do evil magic and they send people who are not prepared enough to deal with demons. I get it, okay? A lot of people die. They don't even have their own medics because the last demon, like, murdered them all. They're not good people. But in this specific case, everything they do is things she said she is there to do. She wants to do it. And yet, when her husband comes in guns blazing and declares, oh, you know, don't touch my wife or whatever it is, it's like, oh no. But like, she said she wanted this. She walks in the school saying, I'm here to have sex with a demon. Where's the demon? And they're like, okay, give us a day. And on the next day, they're like, okay, come here. Here's the demon. Take your clothes off. Because, you know, we can't waste energy to summon a demon 15 times. So we summon one demon, we do all the rituals with it, and then we go, like, do other things for a week. So, you know, it's one demon. Do it. Go it. Take off your clothes. Come on. And she's like, oh, how dare you? And then her husband is like, oh, how dare you? Like, sir, she walked in saying she wants to have sex with the demon. What do you want them to do? Tell her, sorry? No? Well, they're the school that has sex with demons. Like, what? Who is at fault in this situation? Because it's definitely not like the evil wizard. In this specific case, the evil wizard didn't do anything. Anyway, sorry about this. I get a bit emotional. So, again, husband, deus ex machina. He shows up miraculously healed, still cursed. He saves her, And then she learns, again, basically the same day, that she's pregnant with a boy, which means that her baby is going to be cursed when he is born. He's going to be born blind, and he's going to be born with extremely unstable powers. Um, Obviously, the solution is to run in the middle of the night to the land of the king who can actually break the curse, because again, she actually got what she needed to in the evil magic school. She learned what was written in the book, and she needs one of the kings, the other kings, to break the curse. And then she uses her tactical skills to make a deal. She would win him an impossible battle, and he would lift the curse from her son. Sounds good. Okay, she lives in the middle of the freaking night. Like, she's being treated for the trauma of almost getting the consequences of her actions. And then the hero is like, oh, congratulations on your pregnancy. It's so good to see you're going to have a baby boy. And Nida goes, oh shit. And then runs, like literally same night, runs away. Nobody knows where she is. She's just like, what? And then the last chapter. We are 2 years later. She is finally leading the armies of the king, the other king. The king who can lift the curse. She is finally leading the armies in the battle that she needed to win. Sorry about this. I am just like a bit emotional. They almost lose, and suddenly the same Deus Ex Machina happens. Her still husband, because they're not divorced, she just ran away, appears, demands to know who slept with his wife. I am serious. He asks, whose baby is this? Like, because someone says, oh, whatever is with the tactician's child. And he's like, okay, which one of you gave my wife a child? How dare you? Like, sir, we have bigger problems right now than you being weirdly jealous. So can you just tone it down and wait for later, maybe? And then Nida sacrifices herself. That's it. The epilogue of the story implies that this wins the war because the king actually lifts the curse from the baby, and her maid, yeah, she's just back, takes him back either to her or her husband's land, but then mentions that she's going to abandon the child in an orphanage because the younger brother, who was supposed to be the heir of the Dark Wizard lordship, he is actually going to do something horrible to the child because the child is going to technically be the new heir. It's so weird. The entire story so far is told in events that happen, like alternate events happen in one day, and then we skip a few months. And then we get one day of action where 15 different things happen, and then we get like 2 years of nothing. It's both so rushed and so dragged out that it's kind of amazing how the author managed it, but it's so bad. Again, there is very little time for the story to rest because the main character, we never see her rest. She's just rushing from point A to point B to point C right now. Okay, so that's the end of the plot. Again, ends in an orphanage. We don't really get to see what happens to Ren, to the father, the husband, but maybe we're going to see him in the future books. So this is a prequel because the son, the boy, is supposed to be one of the male protagonists in the future romance books. We just don't know which one. So, this was the plot. This was the story of a woman deciding she's worth more than her family thinks she is, and doing everything in her power to gain what she wants. The problem comes from her methods and how she thinks of those she perceives as standing in her way, which is literally everyone. So, if I can be allowed a bit of a subjective opinion, I'm going to just say one thing. I don't know who I'm supposed to be rooting for in this story. Seriously. None of those people are relatable, likable. I don't want any of them to succeed, especially the main character. You know, outside of the accepted point of view protagonist, so outside of Nita, nothing she does, says, or even thinks make her likable. She's a horrible person. But again, I said we're going to start from the side characters and then we're going to leave Nita for last. So let's not get ahead of ourselves and start with the side characters in the order in which they appear in the story. So let's begin with. Mm, who do we begin with? Let's begin with Lucy. By the way, it doesn't matter who we begin with because the side characters are just cardboard cutouts. They're not three-dimensional, they're not even two-dimensional. Every person is a still image, like a PNG, just because we need someone else to be there, just so it's not just Nita walking through an empty palace or an empty battlefield. It's literally just cardboard cutouts. There's nothing there at all. But Lucy, the maid, the whipping girl, the one who later becomes the sister-in-law of the protagonist. So Lucy is her only friend also. Um, I'm going to say maybe because the only person who can actually stand the main character has to be paid for it. You know, that's what I think. Her role in canon is a bit confusing because she is again the cook's daughter. She almost marries the heir of the same mansion, of the same land, and then ends up marrying a different heir of an ancient dark wizard lineage. She also has incredible amount of magic powers, which somehow means she is not bound by the same misogynistic laws her lady is, because she has her pick of men of to marry. Okay, nobody here. Okay, nobody here who we're supposed to root for. I think. Okay, sleeping around is bad, says the story. Okay, if if you're just like slamming it up, forget about getting a good ending unless you reform and change your ways and become monogamous. Okay? We don't want anyone sleeping around here. This is like biblical sin, even though there's no Bible in this story. No. Everyone has to be pure, virginal, or regret everything they have ever done before the marriage. So, Lucy has her pick of potential husbands between all those incredibly powerful, rich men with ancient lineage, and she's, again, a servant. Misogyny. And she's also allowed in society to, like, if her lady allows it, she's allowed to, like, wear all the fancy dresses. Because at the wedding, the actual wedding, she wears one of Nita's dresses, and nobody thinks that's weird. That, you know, the whipping girl is dressed like a noble woman and just walks around with the nobility. Interesting. She is there because Nita needs to be talking with someone, not just talking to herself. So she is supportive when necessary. She is bold when necessary. She's generally there because the author needed to show the protagonist is capable of attachment and caring for another person. And this just doesn't work. She is incapable of care, of attachment, of affection. She cannot do it. Okay. Moving on to Victor. Victor is the younger brother, the heir who doesn't do his homework, and the one who was going to be marrying Lucy, but she rejected him because he didn't rush in to save his sister, the youngest sister, mind you, who almost got eaten by werewolves, and Lucy thought, "Oh my God, what a bastard." But you know, it's her right. She can choose not to marry him. That's fine. So he's the firstborn son. He is the heir. He's a coward. He also thought that he could get away with his sister doing his homework forever. He kind of tried to redeem himself in the end. but he really doesn't do anything. He's still there as a foil to show how much smarter she is than him and how much more capable she is than him. He is the first man she's compared to, and he basically has to be the worst capability wise. He's just incapable. Just to show how much more hardworking, smart, and all those things she is. I mean, he also walks around on carpets in like his muddy boots. Who does that? Who, like, listen, Nira, horrible person, atrocious person, must be put behind bars. Absolutely disgusting. But Victor, walking around with muddy boots on carpets? What's wrong with that family? Oh my god. Ugh. Disgusting. Yuvin. Yuvin is the Old Witcher. The grandfather, uh, at the beginning, he's supposed to be like the main villain, I guess. The story doesn't actually have villains, for the record. Um, the plot doesn't have villains. The actual villain is the society, the patriarchy, all those things, the system. But the face of the system, the first one which we see, is Yuvin, and he is there to enforce the old order and misogyny. A smart woman, in his eyes, is still worth nothing unless she uses her womanly charms. And the moment she doesn't blindly follow his orders, she is nothing. She is garbage and he abandons her. His son, Leonard, is the family disappointment, aka Yuvin's disappointment, because literally nobody's opinion matters but Yuvin's. Instead of following power and ranks as his father, he chose money, and he's a merchant. He trades livestock and also pedigree horses. Also, he's like very rich, so he's extremely good at what he does. His land and his business and his everything is doing amazingly, really well. And his father considers this a great insult because, oh my god, how dare he not do what as he is told, the bastard. Yeah, Leonard himself is actually disgusted with his daughter for not being a good little housewife. So, Yuvin is disgusted with her because she doesn't blindly follow orders to be the best, most educated royal advisor. Leonard is disgusted with the same person for not being a good little doormat, I guess. How dare she? So he also doesn't approve of the original future son-in-law, the first fiance, because he supposedly has feminine features. Okay, so Leonard is shown to be a not good person. Okay, like we know he's not a good person. But like, was this really necessary? Was it? Just because the man his daughter is to be engaged to, because they're not engaged yet. He doesn't do hard physical labor with animals. And he's like, well, he has like very womanly hands and like it's obviously like very delicate and stuff, so ill. That's not even cartoonishly evil, that's just, I don't know, you could, I get that he's supposed to be cartoonishly evil, okay, so Yuvin is supposed to be the more subtle one, the father is supposed to be a raging misogynist, I get that, but I don't know, just like, tasteless, if you ask me. Um, it doesn't matter that he is the family disappointment. His daughter wanting to be more than a housewife is still worse, it doesn't matter. Even the family disappointment is disappointed that she dares to want an education. How dare she? Okay. Someone I personally, like, I liked exactly one character in this entire thing. And it is a side character. Not even a side character, he's just there for, like, no time. And it is a guy who shows up at the beginning of the first chapter, because as I mentioned, Nira is getting her portrait painted. And my favorite character is the guy who's actually doing the painting, Kaddal. So Cardo is a painter commissioned by a mysterious suitor, aka the Dark Wizard, to paint another portrait of the protagonist and take it to back to the Dark Wizard land, just so Han can see his future wife, what she looks like. And like he teases her, he isn't too horrible. He's actually just kind of fun. Obviously, he has to be a raging misogynist because, oh my god, can we take a break for 5 seconds? But no, he is amazed, amazed, I'm telling you, surprised that she wants to be more than a pretty face. He's like, but you're so pretty and you actually want an education? What is this? Women can want more than one thing? Why didn't anyone tell me? Oh my god. Okay. Now, we were talking about the ex-fiance, and this is Derin. So Derin is the hottest piece of man meat ever to exist in those lands. Okay, he is so incredibly sexually attractive and desirable. Every single woman, because remember, no homosexuality right allowed here. No, every single woman sees him, and it's like you like he walks in, and in the distance, the sound of pennies dropping. He's that hot. He's also the son of one of the royal doctors, so he's also a on his way to becoming one of the royal doctors. And also that's why he doesn't do much physical labor because he needs to like his hands need to be, protected and stuff because he needs them. He is the most handsome of them all, the kindest, the most loving. But he only has eyes for Nira. I mean, he's also a weak, cowering creature with no willpower, because the moment his parents say, actually, we don't want you to marry this woman, we want you to marry that woman, he's just like, okay. And when Nida tells him, actually, I know you literally got married yesterday, but I want you to swear you would always love me and only me, he's like, okay. He only does what he's told. And once his fiancée is disfigured, and the woman he doesn't want is supposed to be a better option, he just marries her. Like, literally, a few hours after his parents are like, actually. And then a few hours later, he swears his eternal loyalty to his ex-fiancée and then kisses her because, men are pigs and they're disgusting creatures in this book and, kill them all. And the woman he marries, like actually marries, is Rosalie. Now, Rosalie is supposed to be the local mean girl, okay? Nita knows that some of her neighbors have daughters around her age who don't have the same aspirations as her. So, she wants to be... Oh my god, we've been talking for an hour and we still haven't reached the best part. Worst part, whatever. Okay, Rosalie. Rosalie is the leader of the mean girl gang, clique, whatever you want to call it. She is the one who tells everyone that she is the heiress of an incredibly powerful priestess. And Nida is basically mentions that she actually dyes her hair to be more of a like ginger or redhead because that was the color the priestess supposedly that was her hair. And Rosalie wants everyone to believe that she is the heiress. Obviously, Nira thinks this is total BS because any woman who isn't Nira needs to die on a stake. And Rosalie also got rejected by Derin once because, again, he only loves Nira. Everyone only loves Nira. So Rosalie is super bitter. She wants Nira to like die in a grease fire, go sleep in a ditch, just have everything worse happen to her just because Nida is more beautiful, more powerful, more everything than her. Obviously, Nida is the main character, so whatever. So, Rosalie is there to show that despite this world hating women with burning passion, somehow women still have time to hate each other with burning passion. All women here hate each other, okay? So, Rosalie is introduced as the leader of the Mean Girl clique. But unlike the usual trope, the mean girls here have no power whatsoever. They are the daughters of the neighbors again, and the reader knows they're bad because their dresses are cheap and tacky. They dye their hair, and they hate the main character because she is everything they dream to be, and yet they know they can never achieve. It is very, very cartoonishly done. In Rosalie's case, again, she insists she is the descendant of an incredibly powerful priestess, rejected by Darren, and then in the end, she shows she is actually the heiress, the descendant of this priestess. She unlocks her power, she marries Darren, and she tells Nida that she hopes she is miserable her entire life, which actually happens. So, good for Rosalie, we stand. She's there to show that unlike Nida, all the other women are catty, shallow, and disgusting, which Nida also is catty, shallow, and disgusting, so I don't know what we're even talking about. She's supposed to show that all women are worse than Nida. Again, physically not possible. Literally impossible to be worse than Nida, considering the things she does. And if you think I'm exaggerating, trust me, I wish I wasn't. But anyway, let's move to the land of the Dark Wizards character-wise and see the in-laws. So the love interest, which is Aren Griven. His mother died, obviously, curse, whatever. His father's name is Adlan Griven, and his brother, his younger brother, is Han Griven. They're the next introduced characters. They're the ones who pick the sexism where, because the sexism has to be put on pause for a bit when Nida gets on the boat, and then someone has to pick it up when she sets foot on a different land. So those are Arlan and Han. Arlan is the head of the family, the Dark Wizards. He has extremely short temper, no love for either of his sons, and supposedly the only person he has ever cared about is his late wife. Supposedly, obviously, because the short and flippant way he speaks of her, and also because he only describes her as pretty and powerful. Like, he doesn't sound like he knows who she is as a person. He picked her because she was powerful, and then she was also eye candy, I guess. Like, he just followed her dying wish, but her dying wish barely makes sense. So, why? Han is the second son, the official heir, and the one who was supposed to marry Nira before she made a fuss. He is immature, vulgar, and does everything he can to ruin Nira and her husband's lives because of his bruised ego. Which, given his position, definitely should have been more of a problem. He should have been able to do more, and he should have been able to do much worse than he actually does, because all he does is like throw a few remarks and that's it. Like, he's just vulgar and tries to insult people. Truly the behavior of a man who just lost an entire kingdom and everything he has ever worked hard for. And then he marries Lucy later, the maid. Just evil person. Evil. Horrible. Vulgar. Disgusting. Misogynistic. Evil. Okay. We also know he's horrible just because Lucy says that if the child of Ren and Nida is brought back to the evil wizard country, he would do everything he can to remove it from power because it would stand in his way and in the way of their son. So, like, he is a bad person, but for some reason we don't actually see him do anything really bad. He's just like gross. I wouldn't want to be near him, but the way they describe him is like, oh no, he's the villain. He isn't. There is no villain. But now, the love interest, everyone. Again, this has been called a few different things. Obviously, it is high fantasy because it is set in a completely fantasy land. But this has been called romance, this has been called erotica. It is neither. So, Ren Griven is there as the love interest, but this is not a romance story. This is not a love story. Keep it in mind. Okay. he I'm calling him the love interest just because that's what he's there technically, that's what he's there to be. But aside from that, he is nothing of the sorts. So, Ren Griven. Who is he? We don't know. We know he is nobody actually. He is more of a blank slate than the main character, and I'm still not sure if the audience is supposed to swoon over him or pity him. I personally just think I just pity him. Like, I think for all the life he had, his father should have just drowned him in birth and gotten over it. He literally doesn't get a break from misery ever. Okay, so Ren again is the firstborn son of the Griven line, which means he carries the family curse. This means he is obviously the family curse is absolutely horrible, vile, despicable, disgusting. Sorry, my nose itches. And this means he is blind and his powers are unstable. And his mother died. Not at birth, but she's dead. That's it, by the way. That's the curse. His powers are a bit unstable and he was born blind. A fate worse than that, I'm telling you. Okay. The whole drama of the curse supposedly is because of said unstable powers, which is why Ren is being kept chained in in a tower of gold. And yet the blindness he has lived his entire life with is his downfall because again he gets stabbed. Because he's blind. Because he forgot he was blind and he didn't actually try to do anything before running in unfamiliar environment. Okay. Physically, Ren is both stereotypically male lead E, but also sickly, thin, and uncoordinated in a way which shows his past. He grew up in literally chained in a tower. Okay. He is excessively scarred all over his body, but most around his neck, wrists, and ankles, because he is chained with cuffs that suppress his powers, and basically the entire tower is made to suppress his powers. But in the past, when he was younger, before he was put in this tower, he was still kept chained, and when his powers would flare, the chains would melt and fuse with his skin. And whether he got healers or not, they would arrive. If they were healers, they would come too late. If they weren't, they weren't. But basically, he had metal fused to his body for the longest time, and this left excessive scarring. He basically lost layers and layers and layers of skin. Something just because we're talking about this right now, he is never shown to have any discomfort because of the scars. And also his scars are basically not mentioned ever again, even though they're horrible and they should actually hinder his everyday life. But, anyway. You can see him on the book cover. Mentally, though, he is a broken man. Every time he could get a little freedom, back when he was younger, he would do his best to kill as many people as possible, out of spite, because he was kept chained as an animal. He has no skills whatsoever, social, leadership, even the simplest life skills. He cannot do anything. He was never meant to have a life. His father granted him his life in the most literal sense. So, he took part in conception and then took away everything that would make it a life. He was stripped of his title, freedom, and barest rights. He was left bare, naked. Humanity torn away to live something treated with less dignity than an animal led to the slaughter. Adlan arranged servants of the palace to serve his sexual needs, by the way. This is the level of care his father had for him. He let him have sex with people that were ordered to do it, and otherwise he was kept chained in a tower with no powers, no nothing, no entertainment, nothing. Okay, Ren in this story, the love interest, mind you, is less than a person, less than a man. He is nothing but a volatile, unstable, shattered shell, cracking and leaking. And the one thing he's asked for when he's about to exchange one person for another is to never be forced to, basically, to never have to force this curse to anyone else. He asks his future wife to never have children with him. That's the only thing he asks for. He doesn't expect her respect. He doesn't expect her love. He doesn't want them, by the way. He doesn't expect to be treated well. He just wants to not pass the curse to someone else, to a child. Ren's sexuality is, it's not, it's barely touched upon, and I feel like the author didn't even think about what someone's sexuality and how it would be tied to their like opinion of themselves and their self-worth and all. If they knew that everyone who has ever had sex with them, first of all, it was out of obligation. You know, they were literally beaten, the servant girls, if they didn't have, if they didn't, be intimate with him, if they refused to be intimate with him. They were beaten and kicked out of their jobs if they refused to do it. And I think the author didn't think what this would do to a person mentally and to the way they view their sexuality and sex as an action, as an activity. Okay, Ren's sexual life before his marriage was always linked to someone else enduring it, basically suffering from it. Okay, and yet this, how to say it, this doesn't seem to have affected him at all, neither in his actual everyday life nor in his sexuality, which, I don't know, I feel like, I was going to say I wish it was explored more, but I don't think the author at this point is capable of exploring a character or something like this, such a serious topic. His sexual needs are basically what would be considered normal in everyday society. That's what I'm going to say. Like the standard, oh, he's a guy, he wants everything in a skirt. That type of thing. And, at least he's fully aware. Like, he knows how things happen, which is also why he rejects penetration sex. He doesn't pleasure, he doesn't want to have, penetration with his wife, because he doesn't want anything to get even close to possible of her getting pregnant. That's it. And the thing is, he doesn't have any issues with pleasuring her orally. He doesn't have any issues with performing cunnilingus on her. And he also doesn't have any issues with him not getting his climax while she gets multiple in one night. Okay? Like, as a lover, he is generous. He just doesn't want children, and he does the only thing he can think of in this time and age to prevent that, which is just not have sex with her. Okay, correction, which is not have, vaginal penetration with her, because what they do would be counted as sex. It's just the only thing he doesn't do is the only thing that can lead to a pregnancy. So this is the only thing he asks of her. And okay, before we move to Nira, I need to make something very clear. Okay, Aden expresses multiple times, in multiple ways, always directly, using his words and talking to Nira, that he does not want to have this type of penetration, this type of sex with his wife. Okay, his reasons don't really matter. Okay, whether it's because of pregnancy, whether it's because of something else, He does not want it. He doesn't want to do it if she takes contraceptives. I mean, he also doesn't want her to take contraceptives because it is dangerous to her health. Not if it's not even if she is sure they would have a daughter, which means that the curse would not go to the baby. He does not want it. He doesn't care if she finds a lover. He doesn't care if she, at least at the beginning, if she has a child with someone else. I mean, later he gets a bit jealous, but that's that's linked to something else. He doesn't want to have penetrating sex with her, and he doesn't desire her above all. After all, he tells her, no matter how beautiful she is, he is blind. And even if he wasn't. Now, you can probably guess where this is going. Um, I am going to add a little bit of content warning when I'm talking about Nida at some point, but it is linked to what I just said. Just be aware. Okay, so personality-wise, I would like to say he has none. Oh no, okay, this sounded horrible, but because, like, maybe it's because of the trauma, but also because he isn't a real character. Just as everyone else, the side characters, I mean, he is a cardboard prop to stand beside Nida. He is an animal on a short, tight leash. He is muzzled, declawed, and beaten. He has nothing, wants nothing, aspires to nothing. Only the destruction of those who wronged him first and then everyone else. He holds no regard for himself as he has been raised to believe himself less than worthless. You know, in the end, he seems to have some agency, he actually doesn't. The nothing in him, the nothing in him is filled with Nida, and all of his focus and emotion are on her, and her only. He is still nothing. Okay. He is still an empty shell. He's just been manipulated for this nothing to be completely focused on her. And trust me, this is fully on purpose done by her. Okay, but let's move to the girl of the day, woman of the night, the protagonist, Nida. So, Nida is the only character in this story. Okay, everyone else just props, cardboard cutouts. She is the only one who does anything. She is the only one who moves the plot. Again, the plot is purely character driven, if you can say there is a plot. Her wants, her reactions, her actions, they're the only things that actually do anything, okay? Everyone else is a blank piece of paper. And while she has enough personality to like carry a story, okay, it's a bit different when it's literally just her. Like, she has to carry the whole thing. Plus, plus, both subjectively and objectively, Nida is a horrible excuse of a person. She is a vile human being, and if someone emphasizes with her choices and actions, and agrees with them even, or not even with all of them, just with some of them, I would like them to stay away from me, very far away. Okay, Nida is pathologically incapable of caring about anyone but herself. Usually this would mean she would be called selfish, but she is so far beyond that point that she ends up canonically evil enough to be a classic Disney villain. Okay, her desire for power trumps literally everyone and everything. She saves the life of her little sister only because it would make her look bad if she didn't. She admits this herself. She manipulates a weak-willed man she doesn't care about into putting her above all, and she does it twice with her ex-fiance and with her current husband. You know, she holds no love or care for Dedin, the original fiance, before or while they were engaged. He was simply the optimal choice for a husband, and also good for stroking her ego, because he was an incredibly pretty arm candy who had only eyes for her. He was respected as a healer, but not really influential enough to get even close to overshadowing her with his power or his presence. And when he gave into pressure and broke the engagement, Nita did not care that she was losing a man she was supposedly in love with. No, she was angry because Rosalie had taken something she has viewed as curse. Someone had chosen, and this someone was not Deaden, by the way, his family did. Someone had chosen Rosalie over her. That's the whole thing with Deaden. Okay. Like, when she lost him, she only cared someone was considered a better option. Arranged marriage wise, like literally, because of Rosalie had power. So she uses the grip she has on him to force him to cheat. And like I don't mean, oh, is a kiss cheating? Is a hug cheating? What is considered cheating? I do not mean that. Okay, I mean she makes him kiss her. That's disgusting. I think that's foul. I think if you know someone is incredibly like this weak-willed, and they're really easy to fall into pressure, I don't think one should force them to cheat on their new wife like this. But that's just me. But it's not even the kiss that's the issue, by the way. She made him swear that he would only ever love her hours after his wedding. This is an act of bruised ego and disgusting petty vindictiveness, because the marriage was a proof she was no longer the most desired maiden in the world. So she basically uses her influence to prove to herself that she is still most desired in his eyes. She doesn't care about him. She just makes sure that he cannot live his life in peace, because now he would always feel guilt because he cheated on his wife the morning after the marriage. He can no longer consider himself faithful. Okay. Nita isn't satisfied with simply getting a lot, not even with getting it all. No, it's not that she has to win, it's that everyone has to lose. Everyone who has ever slighted her, no matter why or how, they need to be destroyed for even daring to imply she's anything less than perfect. Okay? When she arrives in Adaret, when she arrives in the land of her new husband, she is greeted with the news that she is betrothed to the heir of the current lord. So, again, Han, horrible person by the way, but he has been raised to rule. He has the connections and education, and while he is portrayed as lustful and forceful animal of a man, he is still a part of high society. He knows how to be a lord. But, he is not the firstborn. He has an older brother, and Nida's pride cannot take the insult that she will be the lady of the land if she simply marries the rich and influential heir. No, 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 no. Arlan needs to turn his kingdom upside down, destroy the order he has put years into creating, because she cannot accept getting everything. Like, because she would get everything. No, she needs the traditions she so vehemently fights against followed, or God help those who stand in her way. Okay. This also links to Ren and her relationship with him, because she insists so hard on marrying the firstborn, specifically after meeting him. So before she meets him, she's like, oh, my pride cannot take this. I need the one who is born to rule. And then she meets Ren, and then she goes, hmm, hmm, okay. Because she sees there is nothing behind his eyes. Only a beaten, broken animal that will latch onto the first person who shows him anything even remotely resembling kindness. Okay? She wants to be the wife of the firstborn son out of pride, but she wants Ren because this means she will rule alone, and the entire land will be hers and hers alone. Ren would be a loyal dog, kneeling at her feet, never to have an opinion, never to say a word, never to disagree or question anything. She doesn't want a husband, she wants a title that's not attached to anything, and Ren is the perfect choice. Nira, just like Arlan, doesn't see Ren as an equal or even human. So actually, the first time she sees him, when Arlan takes her to see him, he is naked. So she notes his scars, his chains, and then I quote, this is a direct quotation from the book, gazes at his manhood with curiosity. He is a piece of meat that is there to do as he is told. Like on their wedding night, she orders him to perform his marital duties. And when he refuses to do anything aside from giving her an orgasm, her ego can't take it. Even if this is what they agreed on, she cannot accept it. How dare he not express incredible desire to have her own night in every way possible? How dare he, okay? And her solution is first to ask people who have no business knowing the intimate details of her marriage, and she does this on the next morning after the wedding. She asks three of the men who work in the kingdom how she can make an unwilling man want her. She cannot accept him going above and beyond for her pleasure. No, she needs to have all of him. And the more he refuses, the harder she tries. Because again, how dare he? At no point does she stop to think this behavior is unacceptable or that his refusal has to be respected. Such basic human dignity is not allowed if it means Nida would not get what she wants. And also the men she asks what to do, they just tell her to get him drunk, or if it doesn't work, just to drug him, which, like, do I need to even say something like this? Do I need to say something about this? I hope I don't. Her choice of action is to get in the bath with him, naked, while he is tending to himself, and then act as if he has gravely offended her when he refuses her and asks her to leave, which he has been doing since before they got married. She knew what would happen, okay? She attempts to force herself on him after being told no multiple times, and then she is the victim. And then she isn't. This is the content warning for sexual assault, by the way. After the storm and the Alacorn accident, when he gets stabbed, Ren is feverish with infection for days. He doesn't know where he is, he doesn't know when things are happening, and he doesn't know who he is with. He doesn't know he's married. All he knows is the servant girls who his father beat if they didn't have sex with him, okay? So Nida confirms that at a rare moment of half clarity, okay, he's basically only slightly lucid. She confirms that he is there enough to perform, but not there enough to know what really is happening. And then she goes to have sex with him. The main character rapes her husband while he is sick and not lucid, because she will not be refused. That's what happens. When she learns that he thinks she's one of the servant girls, because again he doesn't actually remember what's happening or order of events, she does not stop him. She knows he would not consent to what is happening if he knew who she really was, and if he wasn't drugged and feverish to the gills. And then, after the first time, she opens her mouth and lies to him to reinforce his delusion. She knows this is wrong. She says it herself. But she thinks this is wrong because he thought this was someone else. Which, by the way, even if he just thought she was someone else, this is still sexual assault. But she didn't think this was wrong because he has explicitly refused to consent to what she is doing, but because he thinks she is someone else. So she lies, because she wants him to keep going. Meaning that they go all night, she keeps violating him again and again and again. They only do this once. This is when she gets pregnant, by the way. And later, actually, when he mentions about what he thought was a dream, like, so when he is no longer sick, he says that he had a dream that he was back to one of the servant girls. She has the audacity to act offended and jealous. And then, of course, there's the small detail that she knows a spell that can partially give him his sight back, but she actually hides it from him because otherwise this would mean he would no longer be absolutely fully reliant on her and only think and need her, and he would be able to actually be semi-independent human being. So, we can't have that here. But, whatever. So this was Nira, main character, only character actually. And House of the Raven, this novella, is the first step of a very, very wrong direction. Okay? The author doesn't seem to realize what she is writing. The only character is a despicable, repulsive human being whose childish desire to be the first in everything poisons whatever story this might have been. The pacing is rushed. Literally nobody is relatable or likable. There is no charm when it comes to the magic. There's no wonder. Nothing. Nobody in this story is happy or content. I'm not actually sure what I was supposed to take from reading it. Is it meant to make me excited for their son's story? Because it really isn't. I'm still going to read it, but I'm like, I hope it's not like this. If he's anything like his mother, he will be every romance and fantasy male trope and then some, and he is going to be disgusting, okay? The issue with this book is the world is rich and interesting, but the background cannot carry a story. Especially a story where everyone hates everyone and everything, and everyone is constantly miserable, okay? Nobody is content, nobody is pleasant, nobody wins, okay? And the readers see it all through the eyes of the worst main character I have ever seen. Okay. So this is my official review. Just a few kind of random thoughts now that we're done with the details. The author seems like a lovely person. I follow the page of the book series on Facebook. And she seems like such a lovely person, such a nice person who appears to be always looking for a way to improve. And I think that if she just sits and tries to look at her characters or at her book in a slightly different way, I think she has this amazing potential because she obviously has talent. The talent for world building. She also has a couple of really interesting storytelling techniques, again, which are a bit clumsy, but this is the first story, and she has amazing ideas. She has the ideas. She just needs to polish them a little bit. Okay, she has talent. She has the beginning of a skill. Okay, but you can't have your story be done and carried by someone like this. You cannot write a main character who does this and think it's okay. Okay? This is not the story of a woman overtaking patriarchy. This is a story of someone who should rot behind bars. Okay? Also, just something. I'm not sure. I was actually thinking whether I want to mention this, but I just want to mention it. So this review actually got. I don't even know why it got so delayed. I did have a little bit of traveling that I did, but for some reason this took forever to write. The handwritten notes are 14 pages of this, double-sided, so 28 one-sided pages. I finished writing it yesterday, and I went to check the Facebook page because I wanted to see if there's any news, and I saw that I don't actually have the notifications turned on. And I saw that in one of her posts, the author was expressing how She is very happy when she gets reviews, which obviously when someone gives details about, you know, what they thought of your story, everyone is happy. Um, she mentioned that she is not afraid of negative criticism, or if it's, you know, well done, which obviously this is what it should be. But she, the thing I did, which I think might have been wrong, is that I put um, my my like I put 1 star on Goodreads because I would say this, if I have to out of 5 stars, this is like 1.4 out of 5 stars. So when I finished the novella, I put 1 star on Goodreads, and then I thought I would go and amend my review once I have this, because I want to put my actual review in there. I'm still going to do this, by the way, but the thing is that between the time when I finish this novella and this video is going to go up, there is only one star review. It is just mine, and there's nothing. So in her post, the author specifically mentions mentions my name, and she's like, oh, you know, I'm not afraid of negative criticism. So I want to see if you think I would like to improve, so you know what you like, what you didn't like. And then she's like, even she mentions me by name, and she's like, I'm not afraid of negative criticism, so you know, don't be afraid to put it out there. She also calls me a vlogger, which I'm not, by the way. But anyway, this review, this video is not a response to that post. I had 8 pages written down up to the point right before I start talking about Ren for a few weeks before that post. I just want to make this clear that this review was not brought by me being called out or something like this, or me being mentioned by name or something like that. This is just a project that for some reason really dragged on for me personally, for personal reasons, and it has nothing to do with this. So the author, again, I think she, just from what I've seen from her post, seems like a lovely person. She obviously has a lot of potential. She does. And she obviously has amazing talent in certain areas. I'm just not sure what she was trying to do with this one. So that's all my opinion. I guess I'm going to see you next time I finish a book, or if you want, like once or twice a week to see me, you can come watch me on Twitch, or you can just shout at me on Twitter. I am on a few social medias. And that was all from me for tonight. Thank you very much for keeping me company, and sleep tight.